Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens Behind the Script Ways to be Wicked, Part 2. My name is Glenn Gers, and I come to you for live streams every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, if I can make it. Doing different things every live stream. The next two will be more parts of this Behind the Script project, in which I am taking scripts I wrote over the past few decades in my career as a writer for TV and movies in Hollywood for the past 20 years. And I am breaking down how the story works, how the screenwriting works. Because for most things that you see, you don't know how they got there. There's really no way to know how a script was written from the final project. But since I was there for the writing, I can tell you how this came to be, what thinking went into the thing that came out. And hopefully to try and show you how it works. This is a very twisty thriller. So there's a lot of plotting that goes on and a lot of subtle layering of information and character. So what I was trying to do, and it's taken a lot longer than I thought it would, going through this scene by scene, getting into every script. So the first session, which lasted way too long, this one will just be an hour, I promise. We did the first act, which was a lot of setup. In the first act of this story, we meet Zaja, who is a pop star, a Lady Gaga Pink style extravaganza pop star. She has married a auto mechanic from the Midwest who she met online anonymously. They fell in love. He married her. It became a big celebrity event. Now it's a year later. She is completely in love with him and completely insanely jealous, even though he has not done anything to deserve it. So Wyatt basically kind of wants out of this marriage, even though he does love her. Hello, Gig McFish and Thumper. So the basic center of the story is Zaja and Wyatt, this marriage based in true love, however, impossibly compromised by her jealousy. Murderous jealousy. Her anniversary present was a 2-barrel Derringer pistol, which she would use, she said, to kill him and then her if she ever found out he was cheating. We then find out he is indeed cheating. He is in fact cheating with her massage therapist, a very down-to-earth woman who he has been sleeping with, but feels very torn about it. He is afraid to end the marriage because she's going to kill him if she does. At the same time, we have been following this teenage fan of Zaja who is desperately trying to get tickets to Zaja's concert. And as a result, this fan has lost control of her car, driven into the garage where Wyatt, the hero, was supposed to be, his alibi location while he goes and has an affair. And that's what we've got to. These different threads have all suddenly, absurdly, arbitrarily come together in a terrible chance event in which this crazed fan has crashed her car into a garage where Wyatt was pretending to be, but is in fact not, consuming it, as we see here on the in the end of the scene. She drives into the garage, and because the garage is full of gasoline, old tires and such like, completely consumed in fire. That is the end of the first act. The first act is a little long. This is page 29 of 89. Good, glad you're here. A magic internet movie called Atoms. Welcome, present. So I've just been trying to catch everyone up on the first act because we have now hit the end of the first act. The first act has been a building set of different elements. There's a private detective who is watching Wyatt. All of these things come together in a moment which was in fact the inspiration for this script. The idea that apparently, because of a train wreck in England at the beginning of this century, I read a news article which said that the bodies were burned so badly that even DNA identification was not going to be possible. And that made me think, wow, what if you were supposed to be on that train and you weren't? You could walk away. No one would know you had survived. You could start a new life. That was the trigger for this story. So what we've done now is built this situation. If you want to see the first detailed of the first act, that is in part 1. I'm going to try and get through most of the second act here in part 2, and then tomorrow will be part 3, the third act. So after this shocking, funny, shocking, horrifying accident pulls everything into one cataclysmic moment, we cut to Zaja in her car. She's actually not far away. She was driving to this location when the accident happened. So what I wanted to do in the next couple of scenes is give everyone a chance to process. It's one of the most important things when you pull off a plot twist, especially a major one. This is a shocking twist in which a lot of elements are suddenly in play. I wanted to give the audience time to process that this thing just happened. So I cut to Zaja in her car with her assistant. I make it very slow and simple. Just they are each absorbed in their phone. They notice that the SUV has stopped. What's up? Police cars. And then they notice there's sirens, police. Zaja makes a little joke. Can we tell them I'm a celebrity? There's a lot of smoke, which is when we realize that she is actually being held back by the emergency services for the accident. And she gets out. She's going to get out and look at the black smoke. So we understand it's sort of a way to give us time to say, oh my God, she's going to think that he's in there because she's under the impression that he is there. Meanwhile, we cut to a convenience store. And Wyatt, who has just been having an affair, comes in. He's going to get a beer. But there's a little TV on in the convenience store over the counter that the cashier is watching. And there's a news report. Now, we all are used to exposition through news report. So what I'm doing here is giving a lot of basic exposition. In other words, to say there may have been an underground gas tank. In other words, the police reporter, at least 4 people are dead because there's the person in the car and the 3 people at the garage, one of whom will be mistaken for Wyatt, is a homeless man who was working there. And Wyatt is understanding that the place where he left his car has apparently blown up in a horrible oily fire. And then I just put it on out there, exposition in TV. The point about why this exposition is okay to do is because it is having an effect on the character. In other words, it's not just straight to the audience. It's actually a scene about Wyatt learning this fact. The fact that I wrote, Sue, some of the experienced firefighters on the scene here are saying with a fire of this intensity, it's possible they may never be able to positively identify all of the victims. So there it is. I'm just laying it out so that we understand it. And then I put in a kind of ironic twist. The cashier says, you want that? Meaning the things that he's brought to he's standing, staring at the TV. He's lost his mind, realizing what's happened. But you want that, therefore, has a double meaning because the idea that he could get out of his marriage because his body could be never identified, his body. And then the cashier says, you want that? Meaning, of course, do you want the items? But also, would you like to walk away from your life? And Wyatt is reacting to that. I really believe this is important in a video I'm working on about plot twists. One of the things I really think is important is when you pull off a plot twist, give the audience and the characters time and space and emotion to deal with it. Allow that to sink in. Allow it to hit the characters so that it can hit the audience. And as he's doing this, he says, you don't have a phone. He left his phone at the location so that it couldn't be tracked. And he's now processing. He's processing, wait a second, there's a fire, my phone, my car, and apparently my body are in it. I can walk away. And so the end of the scene is he heads out to the darkening street. My little film noir reference there is also a suggestion subliminally, and it's really worthwhile to think about how your language can subliminally affect the audience the way that the photography and the music and the acting and all those things that are in a movie that you don't get to use can do it. Language serves that purpose. So by saying he heads out, backs away and heads out into the darkening street, I'm suggesting the story is getting darker. His situation is entering film noir territory. Likewise, the news blathers on. He's no longer caring about the news, so we can say, we can subliminally give an opinion. It doesn't matter anymore. Then we go directly to a television scene. This is the next scene. We're still processing. And what I did here is I thought, this is an opportunity. Wyatt needs time. He's going to make a huge decision. He is going to say to himself, I am going to, and in a way, it's his way of being kind to his wife to say, let her think I'm dead. It's better than thinking I betrayed her. That will actually hurt less. So he's not actually being as mean as it seems. But what I did was I thought, how can I give us an insight into a private thought? And I thought, when something like this happens, a celebrity is killed in a violent accident, there's going to be coverage, including all the backstory. So, oh, thank you. I keep wondering if it's valuable. I keep thinking, Jesus, is this just the most narcissistic, pathetic thing I've ever done? But I'm really grateful. Thank you, Enko Red. I really appreciate it. What I thought was, how can I show Wyatt looking back over the experience of his marriage? And what I thought was, well, they'd be showing clips. Like there would have been coverage of the wedding, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought, oh, I'll put that on Entertainment Tonight, which is an American TV show about the entertainment industry. It's a crappy one, but 10, 15 years ago, it was a bigger deal. Now the internet has taken over, but at the time there was, and it's still on, it's just crappy. So here we just stop, like Wyatt walks down the darkening street, and then we cut to close up on a TV, and we're seeing Wyatt a year ago being interviewed. Wyatt and Zaja are trading, like they're talking, they're in love. And they tell the whole story of how they met in a very playful, loving way. We understand that this marriage was not bad at the start. And so this dialogue is very cute and sweet. So that's this whole scene. It's a full 2 pages of them being cute and playful and explaining how they met and why they fell in love. And then it says, you two are really in love a lot. We are, and you can see it. I do believe that you can write these things. Like I said, you are trying to convey all the magic that performance and production design and cinematography are going to give this scene. However, you're not allowed to use any of these things. One of the most important things for a screenwriter to remember is all the magic of movies and TV, they are not yours to use. That is the most stunning thing when you finally realize, as a screenwriter, you are only in one department, the story and character and words department. Every other thing is going to be handled by another department. It's not in your control. You can't decide what the colors are like. You can't decide what the actors are going to look like or even what actors they're going to be. So you have to get used to thinking, how can I convey all that magic that we love in the art of screen entertainment, which pulls together so many arts? The thing that you can't do is use any of that. So you have to use your words. And one of the things I think is important is that you are allowed to speak directly to the reader. You are the storyteller. And so therefore you can, to a certain extent, confide in them, as I did here. To end the scene, you two are really in love, and then I just say, they are. You can see it, because in the performance, that's what's going to happen. All right. Hi, Nathan. I am glad you're going to learn new ways to be wicked too. I'm glad you enjoyed the script. I'm very proud of the script. Was wondering when new content. Yes, thank you. You are welcome, Nick X Play. I'm really glad. There's going to be more. There's going to be, in fact, in the new year, there will be more lesson videos. I am recording them now. Well, tomorrow. I've been working on them, editing them, preparing them. So this TV that we've just been watching. And as I said, one of the things about this script was I was willing to spend extra time to dwell on character, on people talking, on relationships. So I gave a 2-page dialogue scene. All it is two people being interviewed. I think it would be fabulous. I think that the dialogue would move fast and be very playful. But that is unusual. You are not usually expected or allowed, at least in movies, to write a lengthy dialogue character scene. Okay, so we reveal that this TV that we have been watching is actually a TV that Wyatt is watching in a bar. In other words, he left that place, saw the news, needs to process. He goes to the seediest bar he can find, gets himself a quiet, dark corner, and he's trying to think, what am I going to do? So we see that he is sitting there having a drink, thinking and looking at his own life on the TV, which is just a physicalization of what is going on inside. He's thinking about his love affair. And then I just have lots of exposition, which makes sense because the character is processing the exposition. He is looking at what everyone, including his wife, thinks about his marriage. This is a dump of stuff to the audience, but it is, and by the way, it's at the end of the first act, the beginning of the second act, when they are deeply already involved, when they know that Zaja has been married to him, but they don't know all the details. So this is a chance. We get a little bit idea of how Zaja before Wyatt was notoriously temperamental and diva, and since they've gotten married, Wyatt has been a calming influence, a grounding influence. That's what they talk about. So we understand the value of the love. It's not just, he's not a boy toy. He's her true love. Yes, as a breather, as a time to dwell on what's important, which is the characters, the love that he is about to walk away from. It was absolutely, everything in this script is based in very long, detailed character scenes, because I believe that, and I've said the intention of this script was to play out the suspense and the shocks and the twists in terms of how the people behave to each other, how they treat each other, what they do to each other and feel about each other. That's where, this is not where like, oh, there's a fancy code to be broken, or oh, there's an alarm system that has to be figured out. That's not what's suspenseful here. What's suspenseful here is, what are these people going to do in this difficult, painful, twisted situation? So what I want to do is really dwell. It's like emotional close-ups, to spend time in close-ups, in dialogue scenes, in people relating to each other. Now we see Wyatt seeing on TV news footage of Zaja a couple of hours ago, seeing the accident scene and reacting with her pain. So now Wyatt's also seeing the dark side of what he's going to do. What I was showing was the true love that he's deciding to walk away from, ending with a glimpse of how Zaja is taking his death, which, as I have said, Wyatt can make a decent argument is less painful than the truth. And so in a way there is a kindness there, but he can't, I don't want to let him walk away from the fact that this is painful to Zaja. And so that's what this moment is about. And then I show, after all that talk, Wyatt looks down into his glass, he looks at his wedding band, and then he takes it off, hunched over, guilty. Okay, so we are seeing, once again, a physicalization of a decision. One of the things you need to think about, and this one is not very hard, he's deciding to leave his wife, he's taken off his wedding band. It's about as primitive as you can get, but it works. I don't want to suggest that it's any genius move here, but I do want to say that what we've got going here is that I've tried to find an action. There's an action that tells us what the character is thinking. Hello, Donna. How are you? Okay, I seem to have camera problems, so I'm just gonna. So we're in this. We're getting into the second act here. So then in this scene, which this scene is just, it's a 7 lines, 6 or 7 lines, and in it we see Wyatt feeling bad, Wyatt deciding, yes, even though this is going to be painful, I am going to pretend I am dead. I'm going to allow the world to think I am dead in order to end my marriage without telling my wife that I am leaving her. However, at the same time, we have another thread of the story, which is that Ned Burden, the private detective, the weird, seedy, strange private detective who has been following him through the entire first act, is still following him. So therefore, we know that this story is far from over, because whatever he's about to do, he's not going to get away with. So we know that, and he doesn't. That's what causes suspense. We think, oh, that's a sad story, but it would be done at that point, except that there are, quote, loose ends. So, having told the audience, given the Wyatt plenty of time, pages of processing and deciding time, considering his marriage, deciding to end it, not aware that he is being followed, we cut back to Zaja. Zaja is at home, in grief. Now, one of the things that I wanted to do is, the other thing that you need to do when you are setting up plot twists is, quote, keep them alive. Hold on. Let's see what's going on here. There's some comments. I wonder how close filmmakers stick to the script. What is my experience on this? My experience is it depends on the production, and I will go into that. I'm taking a screenshot of this question so I can answer another time. But right now, with this project, I need to stick to this script. But I will answer that another time because it's a good question. And the answer is it can be unrecognizably changed or pretty damn close. And I've had both experiences. Okay, so sorry about that. Hi, Burgundy. Okay, so as I said, we've closed off that sequence with Wyatt. A sequence is several scenes tied together with a single thematic or story subject. The subject to this is Wyatt processing the fact of the accident and making a decision. That's what happened in those 3 scenes. Now we're cutting to a new sequence, Zaja. Now, as I said, in the first act, we have set up the hat pegs and plastic sheeting, which will be crucial in the end of the story. In the third act, the finale is going to rely on these hat pegs in the wall of this area by the front door, which is covered in plastic sheeting. I took a few minutes at the beginning of the script to show Zaja demanding that. I wanted to show it again to show that the process she was giving an order to put in the hat pegs. Now they are in. And we see that there's more hats. The heads they came in and 20 more are. Now, this is not a brilliant thing. Hello, Roddy. This is something where I did something that's snazzier to read than it will be to shoot, which is I wanted to make sure that we started with this reminder of the hat pegs and the foyer, the plastic. But the point was that foyer was full of people who came because of the tragedy. So there's lots of heads in the house with the hats. So I said the heads they came in and 20 are in the living room talking quietly. Now, reading wise, that's nice. Our mind just slid from the foyer into the house to where the people are gathered. Realistically, that's going to be hard to shoot. They'll have to decide for themselves whether they want to actually have somebody coming in and walking through or whatever. But I feel like sometimes in the interest of making a good read, you do some things that are not that shootable. It's not a tragedy. They'll figure it out. It's not such an important point that it can't be changed, but it just was a good way to get this very, very important reminder of the element that will be used later in at this point. Then Zaja's there, and this scene is just about what's happening with Zaja, which is Zaja has lost the only person that she feels truly, truly close to. And so she is more than ever feeling alienated from all the people in her life. So that's the point of this scene. The point of this scene, just like the last scene was to show Wyatt's internal state, the point of this scene is to show Zaja's. So the way I did that was I put her in this room full of people who are supposed to take care of her, or they're all using her. And she is in shock. She is trying to deal, and people are trying to comfort her, I say. However, then the mom and dad of the girl who crashed the car and theoretically killed Wyatt and herself show up. Now, there is a logic to that. They would have a reason to do that. Their daughter was an enormous, crazy fan of Zaja, and apparently they have all been brought together in this tragedy. Now, the trick is the tragedy was caused by their crazy daughter. So there is an ironic, painful awfulness to this moment. But we don't know where it's going to go yet. Are they going to accuse her of something? What are they going to say? And they come over. I draw it out. I have 5 lines here describing the very slow process. In other words, her assistant comes and murmurs in her ear, in other words, and her eyes. In other words, she is being told who they are. She doesn't know who these people are. She nods, standing. No one moves. I'm letting this moment breathe, especially by giving all these lines separate paragraphs. These could all be combined into one paragraph. In prose, you often would do that. It's a terrible idea when you are trying to slow down the pace. So what I'm doing is giving every moment its own paragraph to suggest space, time, performance, and often essentially a cut. In other words, the wine booths come in, they are Rex, Quincy comes over. I'm putting a paragraph break there because we probably would have to cut from one to the other. They wouldn't be in the same, I mean, they can be in the same shot, but that would be unusual. Anyway, the rest of this scene is then agonizing. I wanted this, like I said, the whole point of this story, one of the selling points for me was it's going to be dark and scary, and it's also going to be painfully funny and constantly making you conscious of the twisted nature of what's going on here. Kyle, great question. Answer is absolutely not. That's what I'm trying to say to you, is by not saying it, it's helpful to think of that line as a camera shot, but it is absolutely not helpful to say it. What I wanted to do was give the impression, the mental implication of breaking things up into shots without saying close up, we cut to, all that stuff. When you read close up, we cut to, all that stuff in a script, it removes your engagement in the aliveness of the moment. So that's what I was trying to avoid. My belief is that the main thing that you want to do in a script is get people who are reading it to forget that they're reading a script and imagine that they are reading, that the thing is happening in front of them. That's what you want, because that's the experience of watching something on a screen. Okay, so what happens is Ariana's mom is just going on saying she loved you, and then Zaja says, I'm sorry for your loss, which is, I mean, we have to remember, Zaja's husband and love of her life was just killed by this woman's daughter, and Zaja is having to comfort her. And the mom keeps saying, it doesn't make any sense. The dad says, senseless tragedy. No one can make any sense of it. Random madness, which, by the way, if you remember, Zaja hates when people say things are random because it's suggesting a lack of responsibility, which is the whole point of this scene, that she's standing there. Her husband was killed by these people's kid, and they're saying, out of nowhere, who would have known? And what the answer is, your daughter should have known. Your daughter was driving crazy and crashed. It is actually her fault. There's no question about that. But Zaja can't say that. She is struggling not to say it. But this tragedy is giving her wisdom and strength, and she says, thank you for coming. Then they don't take the hint. And they actually say, they go on, we're going to build a school, a new library in Ariana's name, which is, by the way, implying, in case you haven't gotten it, Ariana is a rich, spoiled kid of rich, spoiling family. And then to make it the worst thing in the world, they ask her to contribute money to a library in the name of the teenage girl who killed her husband. So to me, this is a delightful scene because it's helping to keep things from getting too actually sad. Because just while it is sad, it is also painfully funny. And what it's doing is showing the main thing about this point of the scene is Zaja is alone and uncared for. While everyone might want to help her, no one can. And in fact, they're all making it worse. That's the point. Hi, Gerardo. I believe this is a good balance. That's my answer. Is it is my feeling that this script is very well written. I hate to say it, it's immodest, but the truth is, I feel like the balance of what I'm trying to show here is how I steer the visual mind, steer the emotional mind of the reader so that they are getting those things which you are not allowed to do. You're not allowed to direct the movie. You're not allowed to act. You're not allowed to write music. You're not allowed to do cinematography. Again, I'm going to say this. The main thing about screenwriting is it's making a movie with all the movie magic taken out of your hands. You have to make a movie in people's minds only using words. That's all you get. So you have to start thinking, how can I make the words feel, without calling attention to it, like the experience that I want them to have? So that is exactly the point. Yes, indeed. This is where it starts to get really dark. Hi, Nacho. And then I just made it worse and worse and worse. So Zaja's like, why don't we talk about that another time? And they're just completely clueless and self-centered and horrible. Everyone's watching them leave, but then they come back for an autograph. And Zaja, forcing a smile. So what we've seen in this, that Zaja is like she never could before her marriage, maintaining her calm in the face of outrageous provocation. So the thing about this is that we should actually like Zaja at this moment. Zaja has been very disturbing in the first 30 pages. Zaja has been charming and funny, but scary and possessive and wrong. This is when we begin to like Zaja after all that. We may have had fun with her, but we felt like, okay, she's lovable, but we got to get away from her. Now we're beginning to see the good side of her. Oh, wow. All I can say is, Donna, assuming you're on Zaja's side of that scene, I am terribly sorry. If you were on the parent side, well, I hope you've learned your lesson. Cool. Good. Okay. So we've checked in with Zaja. We have reminded people about the house and the construction, which is going to be important later. Then we have shown Zaja stepping up. Okay. So now we cut to Jane's apartment, the street outside Jane's apartment. We don't really know where we are. I take my time. Once again, I'm slowing the pace down here. A desolate street. Wyatt steps out of the shadows. Now, probably that's one shot, but I like to, I tried to just give us time to explore this feeling of Wyatt is on his own. He's isolated. He is deep in film noir land. He has decided to pretend he is dead and go off with his lover. So we don't know the lover part yet, but we're going to find out. And we do kind of, because it says Jane's apartment. But the point is, if you were watching the movie, all you'd see is Wyatt and you'd be thinking, where is he? What's he going to do? And then you hear Jane. Now remember, Jane has no idea he's not dead too. Jane's processing his death and she goes, holy shit, when she sees him on the Ring camera. Then we go up to Jane's apartment. By the way, like I said, I try to give each scene, even the simplest, a shape. So this scene starts with film noir land. Wyatt is in film noir land. He goes across the street, the lit windows, the dark doorway. He pushes the intercom. He doesn't say anything. And then Jane goes, holy shit. So now we know, A, it's Jane, and the scene has a sense of, oh, what's going to happen now? Every scene, even a simple one, has a shape. I could have ended this with just him pushing it and saying, hey, it's Wyatt, let me up. But this way, we're recognizing, A, Wyatt's reticence. Wyatt is uncomfortable about what he is doing, so he is behaving in character. He is, once again, exposing to us the inner workings of his mind by his behavior and action. Okay? And so he goes up to Jane's apartment. It's a raw loft space. She's not well off spiritually himself. Health character. We've established his character as a kind of earthy, down to earth, grounded, spiritual, physical person. Once again, since you use what you have. The TV would be on. She's muted it, but we're still seeing all these images of Wyatt and Zaja. Keep it alive. The important thing in any story, but especially a thriller, especially a twisty story, is you have to keep the balls in the air. You have to keep all the threads alive so that the audience is constantly being reminded, uh-oh, this may be settled, but that thing is coming, etc., etc. You're always trying to keep as much alive as possible within the character story. This is, once again, there's a lot of setup and payoff. Jane is trying to clean up. Now, at the moment, you just think, oh, somebody comes over unexpectedly, she's trying to clean up. However, what I'm really implying is she has something to hide. She didn't expect him to come over, and she has a secret from him. That's very subliminal, but it is in there. She takes a last look around and goes over it. The thing that she's hiding is her lover, who she has been scheming with to blackmail Wyatt, is in the bathroom, is in the closet. He's somewhere hiding. Okay, so Wyatt is standing there. He still hasn't said what he intends. He just says, I'm going with the flow, which is a way of saying, I am with you. All during the first act, Jane was saying, go with the flow, be honest and spiritual. So he's being somewhat self-consciously ironic. He recognizes the insanity of what he's doing, and he's being kind of modest about it. Yes, exactly. Michael's completely right. The fake out here is, it seems like Wyatt's got a new option. And that's what it is. So Jane, like, they're both sort of underplaying the moment. The moment is, holy crap, you're alive? Everyone thinks you're dead. We were having an affair. There's a lot going on here. But he just says, I'm going with the flow. Like, let's talk. And she says, you're on the news. And then I point out, he has never been here. This is actually an important plot point. I described it in their first scene together, their private scene together. She makes a big point that he has to start being at her apartment. He's never gone because he feels like that's a step in their relationship. So she says, you're on the news. He says, there was a homeless guy sweeping up his body, my stuff. Now, the point is, we know all that. So you don't want to dwell on it too much, but you do need to have him explain it. And also, in case anyone in the audience has forgotten there was a homeless guy, Wyatt has now summarized the situation, but he's done it very, very simply, as this whole conversation is very simple and plain and aware of the tension. So he just says there was a homeless guy sweeping up his body, my stuff. So that's it. That's all you need to know. The homeless guy is going to stand in for him in the fire. But then it says, frowns, distracted. You smoke? Okay, that's the next step in setup and payoff. There is something wrong here, but we don't know what it is yet. But then Jane says, no, because she doesn't smoke. Her boyfriend does. She follows his gaze to the pack of cigarettes on the coffee table, and she lies. Yeah, sometimes, putting them away. So all of this is like he's there to advance the plot. Okay, I want to run away with you. But he gets distracted because he thought of her as this very healthy, earthy, natural person. There's a pack of cigarettes. It's like, I didn't know you smoked, which is fine. She could easily now and then smoke. However, there's something weird. She says, no, yeah, sometimes. She's lying. And that's a little alarm bell in our heads. Okay, if nothing else, an alarm bell that things are not what they seem with her. Okay, so then she just gets to the point. Once again, as I said, when you have a scene with a lot of subtexty talk, which this is, the subtext is, what are you doing here? What are you going to do? And she just says it. What are you doing here, Wyatt? And now Wyatt is basically going to do a monologue. It's intervened with a couple of questions, but essentially we are now going to hear what Wyatt is planning, which makes sense because while it is exposition to us, it is also his proposal to Jane. He is making his way towards saying, will you run away with me? So he says, I messed up. I made mistakes with my life. I couldn't see how to get out. I really tried to make this the way someone would talk, not just this is the information that the audience needs. But he's kind of, what he's saying is, I was in a bad place. I messed up. I made mistakes with my life. He's trying to, as any of us would, when you try and summarize your life, either you become horribly pedantic and take it one step at a time logically, or you kind of grope for the feelings. And that's what I wanted to do. So, what about Zaja? He says, I couldn't see how to get out. Now I can. Very, very simple talk. These are very, very simple. This guy is a very down-to-earth guy. What about Zaja? What's worse, your husband died or your husband left you? Crazy, huh? Nobody gets hurt. This is good dialogue. Then she says, but how would you even do it? She's actually partly just stalling here. And then he says, like, I don't know. I haven't planned out the details. I don't know how to get a new identity, which is, frankly, another piece of setup for payoff. Later in the script, the issue of how one gets rid of dead bodies and creates a new identity is going to become a thing that Wyatt takes from Burden, physically takes it. This is a setup to that. Everything in this script pretty much is a setup for other things. Okay. Ouch. I guess. I mean, Humbert's so terrible. And I like Wyatt more than that. I mean, I understand. Lolita is actually sympathetic to poor, pathetic Humbert. But I'm going to claim that Wyatt has higher ground than that. Okay. All right. But I understand what you're saying. There's this sense of his shame and wrongness and darkness, but at the same time, a certain humor, actually. Okay. So he just says, then, so he's saying, like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but then I stop. And this is something that's really okay to do. This is essentially a monologue by Wyatt. Look, this is all talk with Wyatt. She just kind of hints at saying something, but I wanted to show a different thought, a break in thoughts. So he's talking about, I don't know, I'll find a way to get a new identity. Then I wanted to show what he's thinking. I just said it. He sees her confusion and doubt. On her face, she will be looking weird, and he struggles to put his dazed new hope into words. Now and then, it is okay to simply tell the audience what they need to know, what you want them to know. That's what this is doing. Okay, so he says, it's just stuff you've been saying suddenly became clear. Not making judgments, accepting the whole, the moment, the river. He's trying to take things she has said about them having an affair and about him leaving his wife, which she was saying in order to get him into bed to blackmail him, which we don't know. And she's thinking, uh-oh, what am I going to do? All of a sudden, this guy who I was trying to blackmail has become, unblackmailable because he has no money. But also, it's just like, this is taking an emotional turn I'm not prepared for. That's what she's getting at here. And he says, he's trying to reassure her. It's like, I get it now. I understand. I'm on your spiritual plane at last. So he says, life is precious. If it doesn't happen to be the same life I started with, fine. That's frankly a great line. Whatever, as long as it's real. He's saying he felt, and he and Zaja both were talking in the first 30 pages about how artificial her life is. It's fabulous, but it's artificial. And Wyatt and Jane are from outside of that artificiality, and he is struggling to get back to it. So he says, how does that sound to you? Because she doesn't understand, nice, that what he's saying is, so he just says it after this whole long speech where he's groping towards a feeling. He says, I'm asking if you want to come with. In other words, I am going to run away and start a new life, and I want you to come with. Then I give the reader some time. I let them see the performance that I can't actually control. So all I say is Jane finally gets it. I don't say Jane makes an expression. I don't say Jane raises her eyebrows or Jane exhales and looks at the floor. That's for the actor. That's for the director. All I want to do is Jane finally gets it. This scene has been building to this moment. I would have to say that I believe that any kind of absolute heroes do this, villains do this, is going to have exceptions and frankly be false. Heroes ask questions, villains make arguments. That's just not true. I don't know who the interviewer was, and I understand the impulse to do that, but as soon as you start to say absolutely all characters who are like this do this thing, you've created a narrow formula, which is going to ruin your work. So that's my feeling. My feeling is there's many, many ways that you can do this, and the openness that you can find to say sometimes heroes do this, but sometimes they do the opposite. That's what I believe great writing is. I believe that's what talent is. So it's a great line. Heroes ask questions, villain make arguments. What that really says is, in a lot of Hollywood movies, this happens. And frankly, in most Hollywood movies, that's why we hate the villains. Because they're always explaining things and making these preachy things. All right. No, I know. I don't know that he is. I mean, he's doing the best he can in a bad situation. That's for me, that's the key to Wyatt. From the very first scene, the thing about Wyatt is, yes, he is making a mistake, but he made an initial mistake and now he is trying to fix it. That's what the entire story is about. Wyatt made a mistake out of love. Zsa made a mistake out of love. They both made a mistake together. That's actually in the end of the script. They discuss that. They actually say that. And the whole point of this story is, how do they, with the best of intentions and true love in their hearts, how do they get out of that mistake? And everything they do to get out of that mistake goes wrong. Like Zsa buying the gun is actually her way of trying to get out of the mistake that she feels somewhere inside. She knows Wyatt is too confined. Anyway, so Jane is simply stalling. That is her action here. And Wyatt, feeling the stall, he asked her a question and she's not answering, so he starts begging. Frankly, trying to make the case. Hey, this will be great. I don't know. Anyway, he's talking in this wonderful. This is sincere. This is noble. He's actually saying something great, and all she's thinking is, "This is fucked up. I don't love him. I just was using him for money." But we don't know that, so we are thinking like, what is going on here? Why is she pulling away? And the answer could be she was having an affair with him, but she didn't love him that much. But what's going to happen is this is all building. The scene is going on a track. From the moment he shows up, the question is, what does he want and what will she do with what he wants? What he wants is to run away with her. And how will she react? And she's just like pushing back. She's not even explaining what she's thinking, because he's just, we can do it. It's great. I know. It's all good. And then all of a sudden, boom, bathroom door comes open and Adam Schroeder comes out. Okay. And all we know is, aside from the good looking, sorry about that. It was a different generation when you should say people are good looking. Honestly, everybody in movies is good looking. The point is, it works a little too hard to seem a lowlife. In other words, this guy is a failed criminal, a failed lowlife. That's all we know about him, but we're going to find out more very quickly. So Wyatt is in the midst of, like, this scene has been building to Wyatt kind of embarrassing himself by begging, by trying to convince someone who clearly does not want to run away with him. And all of a sudden, boom, this guy, and now we are, oh, this is why like something's going on here. What the heck? Now, this scene happens very fast. The idea is that they are going to be talking over each other, and no one, like, each one of the different characters understands the scene differently. That's why I really like this bit. This whole sequence is really cool, because it starts with just this well-intentioned love proposal. Then Adam comes out and he's just like, he knows, I have been waiting for weeks and weeks for my girlfriend to seduce this guy and get him to where we can film him having sex so that we can blackmail him. That's what he's thinking. He's thinking this guy is the mark. So he says, okay, that's it. We got enough. And the other thing about Adam, he's not very bright. Okay, so Jane, so basically what's happening is this scene where Wyatt is begging Jane to come with him suddenly becomes Wyatt watching a fight, an argument between two people, one of whom he doesn't know, apparently about him. So all of a sudden, like, he's doing this, all of a sudden, bang, this guy comes in and he's just like, what the hell? And the scene becomes an argument, top of their lungs argument between two violent people, Adam and Jane. And so the scene takes a shift. It takes a tone, the scene is in sections. And this section is now just a run of Wyatt and Jane arguing, and Wyatt trying to be like, okay, so Wyatt is being real calm and friendly and good, because that's who Wyatt is. Adam lunges, fist clenched. Jane's trying to hold him off. Wyatt's backing away, all shouting at once. And then they're just fighting, and Wyatt's like, what's going on? And Jane's like shouting at Adam, would you stop? And Wyatt by now has realized, okay, there's a lot in Jane's life I didn't recognize. I was wrong to come here and assume that she would run away with me. I am ashamed and humiliated because I thought she was more in love with me than she is. I, in fact, was too in love with her. Thank you, Kyle. I'm really grateful to you about that. That's really great. Thank you. Anyway, so the next section of this scene is, okay, we start with Wyatt building up to the proposal, Jane being paralyzed, Adam comes out, they're yelling, and Wyatt's like, whoa, what is this? So Wyatt just says, all right, I'm out. So Wyatt heads for the door, but Adam goes to grab him. Oh, and they start to fight. And now I have a physical fight scene. And I really wanted to make it clear that this fight scene is a mess. These clumsy punches and low blows. It's a bar brawl. Two guys blindly trying to beat the crap out of each other, wrecking the place, okay? That's a summary of a type of action. I'm not going to say like they smash into this, he hits him twice, he falls over. Just the idea is, I'm saying it here, I start the violence here, intercepts and grabs him, shoves him away, punching furiously. So there's a description. At this point, we get the picture. I do a little bit more description to say this is going on, and now it's over. We don't want to keep discussing every little bit of the action. You want to get the feel. Fatherhood. I am sorry. Listen. First of all, please do go to my main channel and go to the first 3 playlists. Screenwriting Essentials, Screenwriting Tools, Skills, and Craft, and the process, being a writer. There's about 30 videos there. Each one's about 10 minutes. Look at the titles will tell you, the thumbnails will tell you what they're about. I especially think you should check out the process, being a writer. But the main thing is, that's where you can find, I think, a lot of good advice when you are, I've been in that place where you're paid to write something, but now you're kind of paralyzed by having been paid. Okay, so this fight, Fatherhood, come back next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Today and Thursday, I'm going to be going through this script in detail. And I'm sticking to that topic. But I would be happy to discuss this more live, or you can just go to writingforscreens.com. Hold on. Writingforscreens.com and tell me more. And I will try to help you by email a little bit, as much as I can. Okay. Let's just wrap this up because I got to go. So there's this fight, and Wyatt is just trying to get out. It's like... Oh, thank you. That is so cool. I'm so glad that you did that. That's really good. I love off-season. I'm going to do it behind the script of that. Okay, so Wyatt is just like, I didn't know. I just want out. And they're fighting, and Wyatt is Actually, the thing that happens in this fight is Wyatt's actually winning. Okay? Wyatt gets Adam into a headlock. Okay? They can't get out. Wyatt is in control. And Wyatt is just saying, like, just stop fighting. Okay, man, just stop. I'm winning. You're out. And then Jane comes out of the kitchen and sprays Wyatt in the face with oven cleaner. A, that's slapstick. B, it's surprising because we didn't expect the deciding factor in this fight to be someone coming out of the kitchen and spraying his face. Okay, so Jane is taking a side. That's what's going on here at this scene. The scene is about to take a new turn, okay? This is a really long scene. This is a sequence that all takes place in this one location in continual time, but is actually 5 or 6, actually probably 8 or 9 parts. Hold on, I'm going to try. I noticed my camera went out. Let's see if it's gone. If it's back. And am I here? Yes. Okay. So what's going on here is this is the center. This is the exact middle of the script. Okay. Now there have been a couple of set pieces. Set pieces. If you don't know what they are, I did a whole video on them. Hang on here. This is the name of it. Set pieces. Set pieces are sequences where the thing that your movie is selling. Like if you're a Western, you're selling the West. If you're sci-fi, you're selling sci-fi. This is a twisty comic film noir. So what I'm looking for here is sequences where things are unexpectedly turning dark and violent and sexual. That's the thing that this is selling. So in this sequence, the twists and the increasing violence is a set piece. It goes on for, wait a second, let's see how long this sequence actually is. Okay, we start on page 36, and it is going to go to, wow, this is show-offy shit here, folks. 36 to, actually, almost 56. This is almost a 20-page sequence, okay? And I'm going to get into that next time. But the point is, I wanted to put right in the center, the midpoint of this script, an escalation and a high of like, whoa, I thought that this was one thing, and now it's getting twisty. But now it's going a whole other place. Jane is evil. Wyatt is caught in some dark trap, and it's going to get really violent and kind of funny violent, because that's the key. So that's what we have to look forward to next time. And I will go long on Thursday. That's a promise. So that's it. Part 3 coming Thursday, 1 o'clock, probably 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Pacific Standard Time Zone, that is. That's where I am, in the Pacific Standard Time Zone. I will see you on Thursday. It has been fabulous to spend some more time with you, and I'm really glad that you guys seem to feel this is helpful. So, cool. In the meantime, go write something.